Good morning. Or, excuse me, good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I can't tell. I'm so tired. I stayed up till 4:45, 4:30 this morning, something like that. Something crazy. Doing videos. I released a video and a live. Sometimes you just feel like it. And honestly, something occurred to me. Just spirit came and told me to do it, so I did it. That's all there is to it, really. It's not that complicated. Why am I on today? Well, because this is an accountability video. This is the confessional. My name is Margaret. You can call me Miss Margaret. You can call me Margaret. You can call me Margaret Ann. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Um, I wanted. You ever get a hair? I can feel it, but I just can't catch it. Midlife Priceless is a channel at its core about the midlife of a person, middle of life, and the value that it brings, the wisdom that you are bringing forward on your journey. It's a time to not be afraid and do some of the things that you always wanted to do. One of the things I've always wanted to do is publish a novel. I studied journalism, and my ultimate dream was to work for National Geographic and travel the world and writing about some monkey in the Amazon or something. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted to travel and write. I never reached National Geographic, but I have traveled and I've written. And so I started this novel. And I'm almost, not totally, ashamed to say that I have been tinkering with this novel for years, over 10 years, 12 if anybody's counting. I'm serious. And it's written. That's the thing about it. I decided today I would do an accountability video to talk about the process if you're ever interested in writing or if you've ever struggled with novel writing. I have some lessons learned that I'm more than happy to share today. And I'm broadcasting from my favorite place in the world, which is my bed. I'm sorry, but this is the most, I just like my space. And so I prop up with my TJ Maxx pillows and do whatever it is. I can go to a table and sit down, but somehow I always find an excuse to be right here, leaned up. I'm trying to think. I'm slow to get started on this conversation because I'm trying to figure out where to begin telling you how this happened. Um, if I go back in time, a good friend of mine, in fact, two good friends of mine, when we were in high school, I remember they bought cigar a hat to give them the look of an author or a scholar. I'm sorry, my glasses look dingy. I'm gonna clean them up while we're talking. And they would walk around whenever we had house parties, back when you could have a house party. And they used to, well, one had a pipe and one had a cigar, I think. And they would light them and walk around, letting you know. And if you've ever seen Mad Men, I think on TMC, if that's the channel, AMC, then that's who you know what character I'm talking about, the budding author. And so I remember them having fun with it. And they would sit in the room isolating themselves. Everybody else is out partying and drinking some kind of alcohol mix. You know how we used to do it back in the day? Used to do grain alcohol and Kool-Aid and think you were having cocktails. We really had fun. And so those guys, they were something else. I'm still in touch with one of them today. That would be Tracy. The other one is Tommy. And they used to do this thing. And they used to just, they were very performance art with it. That's the earliest time I'm thinking, damn, I could write a book. And so I go to school and all the things. And I was teaching at University of Virgin Islands at the time. And I'm sorry, all my words run together sometimes. University of the Virgin Islands. I was teaching there at the time, teaching journalism to undergrad. And shout out to Nicosia. She's my sweetheart. She was my student. She's from Guyana. And she won an award for environmental writing. I'm always very proud of her. So shout out to her. And I just wasn't busy enough. So I thought back and I said, this is the time to start my novel. Well, I started it. I did not understand the technicality of writing a novel. It's not just sitting down and having at it. It has structure, it has a workflow. And I didn't understand that at first. The workflow that I began with was something that I made up. I write. I am a journalism professor. Of course, I know how to write a book. What a mistake that was. I started writing, and I got to about maybe 40 pages in, and it was starting to take on the form of a short story with no substance, no character development. It was more like a journal. So what did I do? If you're scholarly or interested in doing or learning anything, surely you need a resource book, right? So what did I find when I researched it but this book by Todd A. Stone? It's called The Novelist's Boot Camp. And it says in the subtext, 101 ways to take your book from boring to bestseller. The book looks new because I can't find my original copy where I had written in notes. And by the way, the one thing you want to have at your disposal at all times, and I'm knocking stuff around. No, I'm not prepared to do this video as I thought I was. Oh, pencil, pencil, pencil. And I have a really cool pencil sharpener too. Back in the day, when we were school age kids, you always had a pencil bag. Not this big, but a pencil bag. There's my pencil sharpener. Twist and Sharp by Bostitch. Quality, don't you know? So this is the book that I started reading. One of the things that occurred to me is, well, if I'm busy reading your book, when do I get to write my book? It wasn't a mistake. It was great because the author takes you step by step in the writing process. He's not going to tell you what to write. He's going to tell you how to organize what you write. I had not written a synopsis of my book. I had not gotten all of my research organized. I kind of knew enough about the environment I wanted to create in the novel because I used to live there. It's based on an army base I used to live on in the 70s when I was a kid. My mother taught for Department of Defense. She was a school teacher. So we lived on the army base. By then, my dad was out of the Navy. And although he had a construction business back at home, he came with us. We traveled with her, is more like it. I'll post a photo of us when we arrived in Germany. No prizes for guessing which one I am in the picture, because I mean, I was just salty. And so my mom was teaching, and my dad was the self appointed director of recreation. He worked on the army base too, but he delighted in planning family trips. We made a particular trip to, well, he rented all of this camping equipment, and we went camping in Spain. He took us to a bullfight. We went to Italy. I got halfway up the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and I could feel the lean, and I got nauseous. And my dad looked at me, I will never forget, and he said, if you don't feel like you want to finish this, I'll go back down with you and we'll wait for your mom and sister. No problem. And it meant so much to me that he understood and didn't hold court. Well, this is the only time, and you better be glad anybody's taking you. Keep going, keep going. And there are parents that are like that. My dad wasn't like that. He was a Navy guy, but very gentle with us. And he and I were best buds. And I used to, anything he said for me to do, he knew I would do it. Diving off the highest diving board at the swimming pool. Did that because he said so. Anything, anything. I would try anything if he said I could do it. I did it, and delighted in it. So all that to say that the approach of the military environment resonated with me in terms of the discipline to getting this done. It also resonated with me because my story takes place on an army base. It resonated with me because of the real talk that the author gives, the budding author, or the author in the making, about how to do all of this. One of the things that I had not done was break my story down into chapters. So basically, I needed to, which I had not done, write scenes, just like a play. Every scene has a purpose, it has an objective in furthering the story, and you don't want to lose sight of character development in the process. Your character at the beginning of the story should not be the same exact person at the end of the story. Some kind of transformation has to happen, even though the core of that character hasn't changed. The journey should take them somewhere, win or lose. Another thing that I learned from Stone's book is that all of your characters must be presented in the first chapter, or the first how many pages. I'll look it up and tell you about it. But you have to rush them onto stage. Does that mean you introduce each character, you know, Billy, John, and Mary, and uh, Charlie, who may not appear till chapter 20 in truth? No, you don't need to call them by name. You need to allude to, you need to shine or cast a flashlight, if you can think of that. Cast the light further down the path so that we know that there's something there, even if we don't know what's there. So I started rewriting my book. This is all in St. Thomas. Me sitting on the beach and doing all kinds of things. And one of the things I came to realize is that I couldn't develop a character I didn't know. I haven't told you the story yet, and that's intentional. I'll tell you what my story is in a little bit, my novel. Um, so I decided that in order to write about one of the environments that I'm trying to recreate in my novel, I needed to go to that environment and understand how it worked or how it works. And that environment would be a strip club. Clutch your pearls, a strip club. So in St. Thomas, there is an unusually high number of, or in those years, I should say, there was a strangely high number of strip clubs in such a small place. And in my opinion, anyway. And every strip club had its shtick. But the one thing they had in common is that they had women of all proportions, and I mean all proportions. Big ones, little ones, as Al Pacino would say. And I would go to the strip clubs, and then I picked one in particular that I really liked more than the others because it was more vibrant, it was a larger club, and better attended for those reasons, probably. So I will go to the strip club and sit there and watch and take it all in and try to understand what I'm seeing. Eventually, one of the girls would come over and talk to me and say, "What are you doing? Because you keep coming in here." So I told her. She said, "Well, I'll you can ask me a question. I'll tell you." So I started asking her questions about the life of a stripper. And then I noticed my questions and the talking and all were taking up too much of her time because I went more than once. I would talk to her a little bit here. I'd ask her a couple questions, say, "Well, I'll see you next time." And I'm writing it all down. Eventually, I felt like she might have wanted to avoid me, but by then we were, in air quotes, friends. And she felt a little obligated, and I could tell. So I started paying her what she would have earned if she was dancing. So if I saw her getting impatient, I just pull out money, put it on the table, and keep talking. And she would relax and go back to talking. Well, about a month later, I think that's what it was, I was in the same club, and the bouncer came over to me and said, "The owner wants to talk to you." So if you might not see me standing a lot, I think you see me standing, you can see how short I am in some of these videos. So I go, sauteing over, and I'm giving it, I'm giving confidence. You know what I mean? I'm in a strip club. What? So I get into the office of the owner, and he says, "Miss, I understand from my staff and some of the girls that you come here all the time asking questions." And I said, "Yes, I'm paying them." Hey, I had to rush to judgment. I didn't know what he was going to say to me next. So let me prop myself up. So so I start telling him I'm paying them, and this is how, I'm giving him the Perry Mason. I'm trying to justify my being there and what I was doing. And he said, "Well, no, it's no problem, no problem. I just wonder why you haven't asked to speak to me." If you want to know how a strip club runs, I'm the person to talk to, not them. They just work here. At this point, I was delighted, and I'm really impressed with myself because I have done the thing and I didn't even try. So he goes on to talk to me about what it takes to run a strip club. He talks to me about the financing. He makes it clear to me, for example, that nothing in the strip club happens unless it turns over a dime or a dollar, right up to and including the toilets having to put 50 cents in to get into the stall. The dancers may be earning money, but they also have to pay the DJ and the bouncer. Wardrobe, all the things. We talked about the bar. We talked about everything. And I never had to go back again to interview anyone. From that point, I would go to pay more attention to the artistry of it. In those days, nobody saw it as art. And only now do you see pole dancing as an art form, which is also interesting to me, the evolution of things, right? And as years would go by, I'm still tinkering with my book. And I took a pole fitness class. It's not pole dancing, it's pole fitness, if you must know. It was something that my coworkers put together, and they worked all in one department together. And I guess they figured, Margaret would be fun. I was flattered. Of course, I went. And I had a ball. If you have never taken a pole fitness class, I encourage you to do so. You will not hurt yourself. You're not going to break your ankle. Just enjoy the freedom. That's my favorite word, freedom. In fact, the video I released last night is about freedom. Free yourself. Love yourself. Be yourself. All right. When I started rewriting the novel, it occurred to me that I needed more characters to tell the story I wanted to tell. And when you're writing fiction, you you're a product of your environment, so to speak. And I didn't know all of the people I would need in real life, and trying to create them out of thin air seemed to be a daunting task as well. So I went with someone else's experience. I would research things that happened during the time period when my novel was taking place, when the story was taking place, the place, the culture, the clothes, the hair, the nightlife, the daytime life, social aspirations, career choices, things like that. And that's where I developed characters. So then I made a list. And by the way, all of this is in this book. It's just I'm not telling it in chronological order according to the book. I'm telling you according to what I experienced in my journey. Um, I highly recommend this book. Really recommend this book. Even if you're writing nonfiction, I think it has a lot of value. So shout out to Mr. Stone. Um, I wrote out character names and profiles. And just so that I could write about them physically, I tried to find pictures of people who looked like the character that I was developing. I have a number of curious people in my novel, And so I guess now it's time for me to tell you more about the story. Hmm. But before I tell you the story, I want to tell you this novel is being published in two formats. My mom and I were very close, and you will come to understand that I can hardly tell a story without mentioning this woman because she was not only my everything, she was a lot of people's everything. She was the sweetest person, very giving, almost to a fault, um, and had a sense of humor. Hey, my mom got a ticket, a moving violation for making an illegal U turn. Went to traffic court, as my sister has witnessed, and told the judge that it wasn't a U turn. It was a J turn because she was trying to get a parking spot across the street. And Your Honor, you know how hard it is to get a parking spot on Broad Street in Richmond. And got away with it. He said, well, Miss Brooks, while I understand, you know, why did my mother, a J turn? Who thinks of stuff like that? Well, this is the one half of my growing up. The other half was my dad. There are some good stories about him too. He was a piece of work. His nieces will tell you. I'm telling you. My sister will tell you. Anybody knew my father will tell you. Piece of work. So the two of them together provided for a very colorful childhood and experience growing up. And I wish everyone could have that. And I know that I'm blessed. Not everybody had that kind of family life. And so, one of the things my mom always said to me in particular, because she knew that I had certain inclinations, she always said, never write down anything that you wouldn't want me to see. And here I come writing a novel. Wait for it. It is an erotic suspense novel. So, what did I do? I printed out my manuscript, such as it was at the time. This is very early on. And I show it to her. At this point, I think Ma was about maybe 73 years of age, something like that. And she read it, and I sat there just looking at her and shaking my head like, oh my God, how could you show this to your mother? But in order to publish it, I couldn't do it because of a lifelong understanding that I should never write down anything that I didn't want her to see. I decided that if she couldn't stomach it or if she was disgusted by it, I would abandon it. But like most mothers, you can do no wrong. She shuts the manuscript and she looks at me and she says, "Well, Miss Ann." She used to call me that whenever I was being too much. "Well, Miss Ann, I see you got your mind made up. I only have one thing to say. My friends are not as modern as me. So you're going to have to come up with a clean version so they can handle it. Me, myself, I'm fine. But those girls, I'd never live it down." All right, Miss 73. So we kept talking, and the decision was made, and the pact we made was that I would write a clean version of the same story because, to her point, the story was solid. it was the dirty language and the naughty bits that she just knew would cause some problems out here in this world for me or for her friends, the way she phrased it. Uh, so there are two versions of the same book to be published. One is the full on, no detail spared, unexpurgated version, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I can write it, I just can't speak it, pronounce it correctly. Unexpurgated, there we go. That version. And then there is the edited version. The concept is to publish the book in such a way that the detailed version is for the younger, more liberal, or habitual erotic reader. The other is for the person who still wants a good story, but please spare me the details type reader. And the beauty of it is, in a mother daughter, as an example, situation where the mother might be more conservative and the daughter not so much, they could read the same story in two different versions and still have a conversation about it. So, what are the book titles? One book title, why am I telling you this? Because you're going to eventually find out that's why. I'm my authentic self at all times. So if there's a penalty, let's start paying it now. So the first original book is called Panties on the Table. I can't even look at you. It's called Panties on the Table. And the title is derived from an experience I had when I lived in Lesotho. I went to to a party with a guy I was dating at the time. I tell the story in another video, so if you've heard it all before and you put on the replay, just speed it up. Oh, by the way, like, subscribe, comment, and share, please. So back to this story about the title. The title was derived because I had gone to this party, and I didn't really speak Sotho that well, let alone any other Southern African language. It was a song, they played on the radio all the time, Panti Tifele. And so I'm at the party and people are dancing to this song. And there's a chant in that song, Panti Tifele. Okay. It means panties on the table. And I didn't know that. So I'm at the party, giving it, dancing, having a good old time. And I start chanting it too. My boyfriend leans into my ear and says, "Please stop saying that because you're being misunderstood." I didn't know I was shouting for us to get the panties on the table. I used the panties on the table as a title because it is a reflection of the story itself. Do you know what you're getting into? Are things as they seem? Are you dressing things up to be what you want them to be? Are you assuming character traits based on superficial things? And that is one of the messages in the novel. It is a suspense novel because if my Shiro, Zora Neale Hurston, has taught me anything, it is the power of not revealing truths until the very last sentence on the very last page. And that is my goal. And that's why it's taken me forever, because I'm trying to not tell it, but you got to tell it. So I'm struggling with that a little bit. The clean version of this novel is called Malfeasance. Malfeasance. And if you look it up in the dictionary, in a nutshell, malfeasance is wrongdoing that is not illegal, it's just immoral. So there, the other shoe has finally dropped. If you are sticking it out with me, then I will continue and tell you where I am in the process and show you a couple of things that I have sitting next to me here and be accountable to taking my own advice, which is to, first of all, commit to yourself. Are you on your own team? It took me years to come back to Team Margaret because I was on other people's teams. Different times, different reasons. I wouldn't say it was wrong. I would just say I forgot to put on my own jersey sometimes. That's how this book has managed to be 12 years old and not seen the light of day. On the journey to writing, I shared a few chapters here and there with people over the years. And one of my friends said to me, I don't think it's believable. That's all. What she doesn't know is that not only is it believable, there are certain parts of the story that actually happened in my lifetime, but I was subliminally aware of them, not consciously. How do I know that? My mom said to me, "Where did you get this storyline about character X?" And I said, "I just made it up." She said, "No, you didn't." I said, "I did." She said, "It actually happened. I just didn't know that you were aware of what was happening. It's a version of what happened, but basically it happened." The message there is for you parents talking, you think you're talking over their heads, you're not. They heard you and they've had time to think about it. Be careful what you say and what you expose your children to, who they're around. Probably now more than back then. I think my parents were very responsible, but in small communities like you would find on an army base, there are no secrets. Everyone knows everyone's business. It's remarkable. Peyton Place has nothing on a military base. So that's part of the story as well. If you are pursuing a dream or project or something you really want, never tell people about it because God did not give them the vision. God gave it to you. It's not their calling. The woman who designed Spanx is a great example of this. I wish for a link or to be able to watch the video again. There was a documentary about successful women one time. And the the owner of Spanx, I forgive me, I just don't know her name. She talked about how she and her husband, I think, or is she alone? I think it was she and her husband started the business in their living room, and it just got to be overwhelming. They moved into a larger space, on and on and on. And I get the impression she didn't live in the same city with her family at the time, so it was sight unseen for them. And she never told them about it. She just did it. Once she got her product into Nordstrom and some of the larger retailers, she attended a family dinner or something. And she, if I'm recounting this correctly, the point is she told them in as a group what she wanted to do as if it hadn't started yet. And everyone at the table gave her reasons why she shouldn't want to do that. Oh, do you know the statistics on failed retail design and so and so and on and on? And they had no idea. She was already a multimillionaire. They just didn't know it. The lesson for me, is to keep going. Don't look for applause. Don't look for approval. Don't look for validation. Don't look for participation. I'm happy if my friends and family purchase my book, but I can't count on them. I have to count on me. I have to believe in what I'm doing and know that I'm living my dream and traveling on my own journey that I decide. All right. All right. What have I done to further my project? Is a question. What have I done to further this project? Well, I've already told you that I started the draft, did the research, found the advice, and rewrote the novel following a formula, a plan. If you're a project manager, you know the value of having a plan. You can't just be willy-nilly and it'll come together. It's not going to come together. It's just not. All right. So I enlisted the help of a professional editor. And if you know me, I cry broke all the time, but I managed to find a way. And she read my sloppy novel. I call it sloppy because, man, wait till you see. Uh, I sent her my sloppy novel and I wanted rudimentary feedback. I wanted to know if I was on the right path or not, and to just get this wagon up the hill. The book isn't going to talk to me. I don't know Mr. Stone, so I had to talk to a human being. And I probably could have talked to him, but this is not what he does, right? This lady was awesome. She sent back to me, and I'm trying to figure out how I can show this to you. She sent back to me a list of concerns. And the concerns, don't take the word concerns to be a negative thing. She talked about, and I'm going to flip and read here, just the headers: strengths, defining my storytelling style, macro issues, character development. I mean, it just goes on and on. What I did for myself was I used her feedback document and I put it into a table so that I would have a task list. And it looks like this. Now, what I did also was I'm sorry, I slide down a lot. I color coded how I'm going to deal with things, right? But this column is all of what she had to say. What you see over here in pencil is me telling myself what to do about it. So what I have here, it goes on and on, like I said. And as you can see, I've gotten pretty far into the document. Well, of course, only because I want to act like I did a lot. Now it's over. So from here, I need to continue on and write notes about how to respond to what she had to say. And again, some of it isn't criticism. For example, under the strengths, she said, I know the history, the Army base, and I've lived there. Your world building is outstanding. So I just put a check mark next to it because great, on the right track. Number 2, attention to detail for the cultural markers of the early 70s is so exact, from the haircuts on the soldiers' heads to who's driving the F1 car in one of the motor speedway races that I talk about. It's a passing comment. They were watching the Formula One and who was driving, and he should have come in first. This is something I picked up because of research. No interest in Formula One whatsoever. But I needed to build a scenery, build a scene. I couldn't just have people talking to each other in the middle of the air. So that's the way that I build my worlds. She also said, my commitment to exploring deeply flawed characters is spot on. Trust me, she says, not that many writers have the stones to commit to characters who have serious problems without the exonerating personal backgrounds. In this respect, your writing is a breath of fresh air. I'm so proud of myself. This document, and she wrote this for me years ago. I never went back to her, and I understand now her husband's not well, so I'm not going to bother her about this. Once I feel like it's time to hit the print button, I'll do one last check to see if she just happens to be available, and I'll pay her again. She's really good. And I think I want to say she's in Australia. I'm not sure. Anyway, she likes the turn of phrases and descriptions I use. And I have to confess, a lot of them are my mother's way of describing things. And she was always giving things the side eye. There's one video that I talk about going to see Porgy and Bess and the lady selling strawberries. My mom, I'll link that video. I'm not even going to tell you about that. That's way off topic here. But trust and believe, it's a good explanation or a window into my mother's sense of humor and character and the things that she exposed us to with intent. All right. She says I handle the indirect speech in journal entries. There's a diary, and there are diary entries in the narrative. Read clearly, really. Let me start again here. I'm trying to adapt and edit in my head so I can say it to you without reading it per verbatim like that. But she's saying that she enjoyed the indirect speech in the journal entries, and that despite the lack of quotation marks and some pretty fierce debates going on, it's usually very easy to follow who is saying what. I believe at some point, if you binge watch my videos or whatever, I talk a lot about uh, people who read. People who read speak well, think well, and are rapid learners of new concepts. When a person doesn't read, it can be the newspaper, it could be cartoons or comic books for that matter. But if you don't read, you become dull in many respects. Even if you just read the Bible and that is your go to for everything, no problem, but read something. She also says I have fantastic verb choices and I create a real fly on the wall experience for some parts of the plot. So she goes on with other stuff. But one thing that I thought was really interesting in her review is that she talks about my writing style being the omniscient style of narration, and that it is highly debated and it's gone out of fashion, I guess, in a way. But she thinks that I've made it work and given it some appeal. But to be prepared if I find a publisher as opposed to self-publishing. If I find a publisher, be prepared to hear that they don't want that style. They don't want the omniscient. They want either first person, I guess, or whatever. But the narrative style is the way I've always written most things. Um, Here's a good time to talk about how I got into storytelling as a thing. I honestly, I don't see myself as a storyteller, but everyone that knows me really well, they always laugh and say, Margaret can tell a good story. That is because my mom used to get me to tell her stories from childhood, and I would act out an entire event for her, doing all the parts extemporaneously, no plan. She'd just say, "Well, what happened? Well, what'd she say? Show me how she said it," and I'd be giving it to her. But that was our rapport. I didn't know she was developing a skill in me. I thought it was just me and her laughing about stuff. The last time I told her a really good story, and I made that woman laugh so hard, she started to choke. She was in the hospital at the time, and she was in oncology. And the I was trying to show her how this old lady was winding up at this party because she must have thought she was, one of the young girls. I stood on the foot of my mother's bed and was giving her this whole performance. And one of her friends from school, she used to be a school teacher at one point. One of her coworkers, former coworkers, came in the room and was horrified to find me standing up on my mother's bed giving her a performance and not knowing what this was all about. She's like, "Oh my God." She said, "Margaret, stop that." And my mother's like, "No, don't stop her. This is how we tell it." And oh my God, we had so much fun laughing. And I remember that lady looking at me differently from every time I saw her after that. She would have this sort of quizzical look when she looked at me. I don't know if she wondered if I needed a straight jacket, or some kind of Oscar or Golden Globe award. Well, anyway, enough of that. So that's where I am with the novel editing. Speaking of which, and oh, I'm also an index card fiend. I have so many of these around me, and I just cross off stuff as I go. All right. So the way the novelist's boot camp lays out a work plan, and you can see it in the table of contents. He breaks it down by battle plans. Battle plan alpha is mental preparation and mission planning. Uh, Battle plan bravo is to invent your comprehensive concept. All that I've done, great. Battle plan Charlie, development. Deploy your characters, casual event, storyline, and critical development tools. Check. Done all that. Battle plan Delta, drafting. Done. Battle plan Echo, revision and rewriting. All he did not do is put my name next to that. I seem to be stuck on that thing. I mean, is it in the Caribbean? I think we call them the sleeping police speed bumps. This is my speed bump. This is my sleeping police. It's ridiculous. I just can't get past it. After that, there's only two more stages. Battle plan Foxtrot, editing and proofreading. Maybe I am there, but I just don't feel like I'm there. And it's mainly because of this. Till I've addressed all of this, I don't think I can declare myself at Battle Plan Foxtrot. But after that, there's Battle Plan Golf. Just finishing the doggone thing. So in the appendix, which is what I had to reorder the book to make sure I could access, is the 12-week boot camp. And it's broken down by weeks. Here, let me show you real quick. So what should be accomplished? I hope you can see at least enough of it. What should be accomplished week by week, week on week? And I need to assign dates to that. So for every week, my thought is get an index card and write out what the mission is week on week. Even if I think I've already done it, I'm going to create a card. So there should be 12 cards, right? And I should be able to cross off every single thing on that list. Now, yeah, okay, I could write in the book and check it off. I'm not that person. If I didn't write it down, I'm not sure I read it at all. I have a way of skimming. I have perfected the art of skimming. So I need to not be skimming. When I write it down, I know what it said because I had to write it down. So that's just how I police myself. And that's basically where I am. The book is marine green, or you say army green throughout. It does look like a field guide. They talk about reconnaissance and all kinds of things. But the author is very entertaining. He does make a few comments that I find whimsical, and he says things to you that you need to hear. Now, he also runs down some advice. One about commitment. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I can't. I wish I had my original copy of this book. All right. Okay, I'm going to read through the synopsis of drill 4, which is to control your calendar. And I want to share that with you because you may not be writing a novel, but you have a project. And some of the necessity of controlling your calendar is going to apply no matter what your project is. Any project manager could tell you that. And the first point is to set your own deadline if one is not imposed on you by an outside source. You've got to set a deadline. Have I set deadlines? More than once. But then, as I always say, once life gets in the way, you have to make a decision about priorities. Set daily goals. And the author insists plan on vacations, breaks, business trips, and the like. These days we call it work-life balance. You can't just keep this up and keep going and keep going and keep going. That's one of the reasons I tinker with it. Because chapter on chapter, thought on thought, I'll watch an old episode of Columbo, get an idea, email it to myself, and suddenly now it's added to my task list. So I tinker, tinker, tinker. But trying to drink from the fire hose, you're not going to read an entire book, a 400-page book in a day when you didn't write it. You certainly can't edit in like that. So I have to break it into small chunks. But part of that breaking down means time away because I'll get so deep into it. I'll start making frivolous, happy to glad changes that don't need to be made. And give yourself some breathing room. Build a fudge factor into your time plan. Now, my fudge factor has cost me about 12 years, but I think there's more Margaret than anything else. So I think with that, I will stop talking so much about the technical and talk about the reality of my particular project and circumstance. Why I started the book, I think you My camera just blacked out. I'm not sure what that's about, and I'm not sure when it stops. So I will say, I'll start again. The technical hmm, keeps doing it. The technical part, if it keeps blacking out like this, I'm gonna always kind of hit my own rewind button and just start again, so I won't just waste time telling you, oh, it stopped. You already know. Um, you know the technical side of what I've been doing, but the emotional side is this. I kept putting the book down, if I'm honest, because nobody wants to be told their baby is ugly. You've gone to labor, you've grunted, you've pushed, you've done your best, and it is a direct reflection of you and your skills, or you and who you are and what you're contributing to it. And the fear of failure is part of it. The second part is that uh, it was my go-to. This book has been my go-to over a 12-year experience of severe disappointments. I lost my mom. I got sick a couple of times, major surgery twice. All the emotions that go into going into this phase of life we call midlife, and that's part of the channel too. I've decided there's no crisis. It's priceless. I'm happy to be here. I want to continue the work that I started, the projects that never got finished. I want to do it now. And I have the mental commitment. I don't know if there's such a concept as that, but I think you know what I mean. I'm committed to me against Team Margaret stuff. So I need to get it done. Um, I would encourage anyone, stay with it, please. Stay with it because it's not just to make money or, to show someone that you can do it and prove something to anybody but yourself. And that's a lesson in life worth learning. You can't live for other people and what they think is best for you. Because one thing I've noticed is people will make a decision and never ask you squat. They just expect you to accept it and support it. But then somehow when it comes to you, or at least in my experience, I find they want me to talk it over with them and get their approval and their input. I'm not a fool. I'm not. I know what I want for Margaret. Now, it may not meet their expectations or requirements or values, but they meet mine. And that is the point. That's it, and that's all. And I mean that. Uh, what else do I need to tell you? Like, subscribe, comment, and share. There, I said it again. Oh my God, today. All right. I guess that's really it. I have a synopsis. Oh, now one other thing I did do. The early draft of the story, I already have copyrights for that, both versions. Panties on the Table and Malfeasance. I have copyrights already filed years ago. So that I feel free to share a chapter or to talk about it openly. The synopsis, the back of the book summary that you see on most books, even he has one, uh, has been written. And I'm hoping to make use of AI to produce audiobooks. No more talent hiring. I think it's it's a loss for those who do this for a living. But Margaret doesn't have that kind of dough. I have technical skills all day, but what I don't have is dough. So we're not going to be paying actors. I did pay a guy to do a voiceover. I went on Fiverr and he gave me a voiceover based on a script I provided. He has a beautiful voice. I've never used it. I also solicited a friend of mine who's a musician to create some original theme music that I could use copyright free. I've done all the things. I have a book cover already designed. I've done all the things except print. So I'm going to have to let go of my security blanket. I'm going to have to kick the habit and move on. And what does move on mean? My second novel is also waiting in the wings. It's called Blood Clot. Takes place on the Titanic. Margaret, what you gonna do with me? Let me know so I know what to do with me. Boomers, what are you working on? In the comments below, please write the project that you are going to commit to in 2025. Doesn't have to be in depth, just it can be something as simple as write my novel or learn to skate or buy a Harley Davidson or I don't know, anything. Start my channel. You know who you are. I am now accountable to you for getting this done. I'm accountable to myself, committed to myself, and accountable to you. I'll put it that way. I really need to get this done. I'm sorry that it won't be out in time for Valentine's Day. That's when people like this kind of stuff. But it's okay. It's okay. As long as I get it done, it's okay. What's not okay is to just be walking around all saddled up and nowhere to go. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And don't, now this is something that has been nagging at me the whole time I've been talking. You see this daylight showing in my bed right here? When I moved from Houston, those jokers busted my bed up so bad. I'm upset about it. This is a 4-poster bed. How do you bust up a bed frame when it was coming in parts as it was? And you wrapped it. What were y'all doing? Running the truck, tumbling over a mountainside? What happened there? And now they act like they don't want to pay it. Devil. The devil is in this thing, I'm telling you. The devil himself. All right, my loves. Have a great week. Have a great remainder of your day. Put on your own team jersey. Work a process. Recommit. Bye for now.